Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. The only way I can see people joining in is by logging into YouTube myself. So let me see what's up. Good evening, everyone. If you can see me and hear me, please leave me a message. Fantastic. All right, so let me go. Yes. Welcome, welcome, welcome. The only way I can see people joining in. Good evening, Wakaso. Thank you so much for joining in. I see Wakaso already. Thank you. Tell me where you're joining in from, please. Let me see. Fantastic. So I'm logging into YouTube on my phone so I can follow the track of the conversation. I'm already seeing a couple of comments. I see Wakaso Samira saying good evening. Samira, please, Samira, all right, please let me know where you're joining in from. Welcome. We have a very exciting conversation tonight, and I'm working very hard to not take our time as much as I did the other time. All right. All right, I'm back. I just needed to ask them to do something, giving me additional source of light. Good evening, everyone. So tonight I have a very interesting conversation, but I'm going to make it as short as possible. I see a few people online. Welcome, Joke Lawal. How are my princesses? Hi, Skandra and her siblings. So good to have you join tonight. So I'm going to do this as quickly as possible, but I'm just going to allow you a few minutes to share the link of the YouTube on your WhatsApp status, send it as Facebook messages, send it as WhatsApp broadcast. Thank you so much, Auntie Joke, joining in from Abuja here. So if you're here, just do us a quick favor, share the links to this video. The reason we always want you to share the links is because your child is as safe as the next child who is properly educated. So we're not here, this is not like, this is not academics that you say, oh, let my child excel alone. No, this is the one thing that your child's performance or values, is also dependent on the people around them. So please do me that favor, all right? Do me that favor and share the link on your WhatsApp group of church, Old Girls Association, colleagues at work, your cousins, everybody, send them the link. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about sex education. I mean, everyone knows that the RaisingGirls.ng brand on Instagram and Raising Girls here on Facebook is primarily about teaching girls sex education. And if you followed us for the shortest amount of time, you will know that we talk about sex education from the perspective of body safety. So tonight, I want to show you 4 critical things that you need to make sure is a part of your sex education strategy so that you're sure that you're doing it right. People used to say when we're young, our parents told us a lot of stuff, or we just knew stuff. And so, but we found out that we knew stuff, but it didn't, it didn't influence our actions. We knew stuff, but it didn't change what we did. So it means that what we knew was not effective. Sex education then was not effective. So we can't be the generation that repeats these mistakes, all right? Welcome, Auntie Angie, Princess Angie Chukwani, one of our amazing coaches during the last boot camp. Love you, ma'am. So good to see you tonight. So essentially tonight, we're talking about what makes sex education effective. Sometimes I meet a parent with a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old, and they say, I've been teaching my children about sex education. That's okay. So what have you done? So I've told them about proper private and public parts. And I look at the parent, 9-year-old, and the main thing you've taught is public and private part. Mbanu now, mbanu. It's not enough, all right? It's not enough. So I'm seeing Auntie Vivian Annie, our proactive parent, my sister in the work. Thank you so much for coming around. So tonight I'm going to try to make this as crisp as possible, not too long. If you notice, I didn't bring any slides so that I don't feel like I'm in a workshop. let me just take it easy peasy, So share the link, I see amazing parents joining in on YouTube. Auntie Maria, see you, welcome. So let me know what cities you're joining in from. Auntie Joke is joining in from Abuja. I don't know where other people are joining. So let me know the cities that we're reaching out to while you're also sharing the live link, and I'm going to be started in 60 seconds. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you for sharing the live stream. Thank you for watching the replay. Thank you for talking to someone about our channel and sharing with, friends and loved ones about some of the resources that we have here. So school has resumed for some people. So first thing I want to point out that this session we're holding tonight was what we're supposed to learn last Thursday. But, we got intercepted by a child who was at the camp and shared that, her mom's brother is abusing at home and she's not able to speak up. So I just had to do the session last Thursday so that parents can just go home and just make sure they open the conversations and are certain that it wasn't their daughter that was saying that her uncle is abusing her. So Auntie Vivian is joining in from Enugu. How is that possible, Vivian? How are you joining in from Enugu? Well, I'm feeling like Abuja is covered, but nonetheless, the good word has reached Enugu one way or the other. Thank you so much, sis, for joining in. So the flyer says this holiday, and for some people, the holiday is over. But for educators like myself, the holiday is not yet over. The holiday ends on Tuesday next week. So if the holiday has ended for you, think about this session as like a guide on how you walk through this term with your children. All right. So you walk through this term. Sex education is supposed to be ongoing. It's not supposed to be impromptu. It's not supposed to be circumstantial. All right. So that means it's not supposed to be, it's not when something is trending on social media, you now call your child and start talking. It's supposed to be ongoing. So whether your daughter is on holiday or not, this session tonight is going to be valuable to her. Welcome, Emi Origi, joining in from Port Harcourt. This is exciting. So let me hit the point straightforward. The first thing I want to put out there is to really explain what sex education is. The average African parents thinks that, when you provide sex education, you increase a child's curiosity, in sexual stuff. And some other parents feel that no, sex education is about talking to children about intercourse. And so every time I hear that, I'm like, there's a misconception. So I want you, if you can type this, it will help. So I want to start out defining what sex education is so that you can store it up and you can always remember it. I'm going to tell you what sex education is. I'm going to tell you the goals of sex education. Then after that, we'll build up from there. So first and foremost, put simply, sex education is a training or learning that you give to your child to achieve three things, all right? Sex education is a training that you give to your child to achieve three things. The first thing you do that for is to prevent sexual abuse. So sex education is a training you give to a child to help prevent sexual abuse. And helping prevent sexual abuse could mean helping your child, protect themselves from sexual harm. It could also mean helping your child discern the environment so that they protect themselves from sexual abuse. It could also mean what you teach your child, how you teach your child to respond in the event of an attempt or even sexual abuse being carried out. So sex education is a training that you give to your child to equip them and protect them from sexual abuse. That's the first goal. The second goal that we give sex education is so that our children have enough information at home and are able to answer to contemporary conversations. Let me break it down. We give sex education so that when our children go outside and people start to tell them things, people start to tell them, look, gender is in the mind. They can say, no, gender is assigned at birth, and this is how we know what gender is. In today's world, you don't want your children going out there and going, wow, 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 because of lack of knowledge. So sex education is the training you give to your child so that they are grounded in terms of information. They're grounded, they're able to respond to the conversations that are prevalent in their time. So they're grounded on biblical principles. I see children of God, I see Christians talking. I see the kids saying, well, the Bible doesn't really say that homosexuality is a sin. And every time I hear that, my head jumps because it means there's been no adequate sex education. Because if there's adequate sex education, it means complex conversations need to happen at home. Children need to hear about homosexuality at home. They need to hear about gender dysphoria. They need to hear about same-sex interest. They need to hear about pornography. They need to hear about abortions. Anything that can be discussed outside with your child to shift their beliefs or shift their opinions. Your responsibility as a parent is to be the first person your child hears it from. So if your child hears it from you, then you provided adequate sex education that equips them to respond to the conversations that are out there. So that's the second goal of sex education. And then the third and final goal is to help your children make decisions. So sex education is any training that you provide to protect your child from abuse, to equip your child to have conversations out there, and then to teach them decision making. So for example, there is a phase of sex education that is purely about abuse prevention. But then there's also a phase where it's about taking responsibility. There's also a phase where your child is going through a lot of hormonal changes, all right? And they would be curious and they would be interested and they would want to explore. So adequate sex education says, when you feel like this, then it's time to take action. I remember in December, we're holding our annual event for the Christmas called Safer Christmas Carnival. And while we were brainstorming with the resource persons and everything, one of the resource persons in the house mentioned to us that he noticed as a young person that scent turned him on. That's fragrances. And so he was talking about how we can teach 15 to 17-year-olds to understand themselves to the point where if a perfume turns them on, they can know that, oh, this thing makes me. So that means that if they're in a place and a guy comes onto them, strong perfume and everything, it will draw them in. It can make them, compromise. I mean, we talked about a lot of things that are triggers. We talked about late night calls, late chats, and how they make them vulnerable. So decisions. So if I sit down with my 15, 17-year-old, and we're able to talk about what her triggers are, that's sex education. So which part of this is intercourse education? None of it. So, but there is a phase that you talk about sex, and that age is because at that point, it is relevant to them. All right, so let me see how many people are joining in once again. Welcome, Olanike, joining in from Ibadan. See my assistant school prefect, Irene Efanga, one of those people that you're so proud of when you want to talk about people that make you so proud. Irene Efanga, welcome, sis. And then I see Evie's joining in from Belgium. Fantastic. So did you see the three pillars? There's 3 reasons why we provide sex education. The first one is to prevent sexual abuse. The second one is to build your child's ability to respond to contemporary conversations. They're not knocked off their feet. Many times when children are knocked off their feet, they think that their parents are the ignorant ones because the conversation didn't happen at home. And then the third reason we provide sex education is to aid decision-making. One of the myths of sex education is that it is intercourse education. It's like parents think that when you talk about call it sex education, what you're doing is teaching the child how to have sex. That's completely unnecessary. That's completely irrelevant. That is not sex education at all. However, there is an age group from which you need to be able to talk about sex. You get the idea? There's age group that I need to talk about sex. And tonight, I want you to know that the age group to talk about sex is 9 to 11 years old. The reason you talk about sex to 9 to 11-year-olds is because, number one, they're going through puberty. And so in explaining what's going on in their body and the changes their bodies will go to, that their body is a system, for girls, they're going to see their periods. And then you're going to tell them what the periods represent. What happens if a girl has intercourse in relation to the period and how pregnant women do not see their periods. That whole engineering is happening between 9 and 11. They need to know. So now if you're a parent out there, you're like, no, Irene, my 9-year-old is too young. I just wanted you to also know that in the basic Nigerian curriculum, where there is reproduction around the age of 9 to 11, between primary 6 and JSS 1, their teachers are mandated to teach them as part of characteristics of living things. Now, if your daughter did not hear it from you first at home, then they show up in school and the teacher says it. Get ready for their classmates to bring all their ignorance together, mix it all up, and educate themselves wrongly. So as a proactive parent, I always want to be the first person my children hear some of these concepts from. Remember, one of the goals is your children should be able to respond to contemporary conversations in their space. So I was the first person who spoke to my daughters about the concept of sex. And the rule in my house is that we don't talk about sex as intercourse until a person turns 9. And so for my first daughter, I explained to her, but this is a free YouTube class. I can't tell you how I explained to her. If you want to know how I explained to her, you need to sign up for our equip classes. I see some people that took our sex conversation starter class last weekend, where I really broke it down. But if it is too far-fetched for you, search this our YouTube channel. You'll find how we explain intercourse. But the best place to learn how to say it step by step is in our sex conversation starter class. But 9 to 11 is the age. And for my daughter, when I explained it to her, there's a way to explain it that it is non-emotional. It doesn't seem like it's a pleasurable experience. They kind of get the feedback it's just engineering at first. If a child has been exposed to porn before, they may get that part, but as a parent and the trusted adults in their life, you can still engineer the conversation in a way that it is non-triggering, all right? So 9 to 11 is the age. I remember talking to my daughter about sex. She did, first and foremost, she's like, I mean, what is a penis doing in a vagina? I'm like, the way God designed it all. The sperm is there, it will travel to the vagina and so on and so forth. And when I was done, a few weeks later, which is what I love the most, a few weeks later, her teacher brought it up to teach her. And she said her classmates started talking absolute nonsense in that class. She said her classmates started saying this and saying that and saying that. And she said, hold up. What you said is wrong. This is what it is. What you said is wrong. This is what it is. What you say is wrong. This is what it is. Let me tell you, classrooms is where children exchange views and ideas. You don't want your child showing up on this kind of topics with a blank slate. So you equip them, you control the narrative, and so you teach them first. And so that's what I did. So sex education is not intercourse education, but there is an age that you have to talk about intercourse as a concept, all right, that is related to the conversation around puberty. And when you do that, you set the tone. It's like the law of first mention. The first person that tells you about anything determines the color. Determines the color that thing takes. So let me come back here. I see Alero. Alero is joining in from Abuja. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please share the stream. Get friends, families, different people to come in and watch. We're going to be sharing the YouTube replays in a moment, all right? Right after the class. So having said that, let me hear what you've heard so far. I've already said a few things, so let me hear what you've heard so far. Today is not going to be a long session because, it's just not going to be a long session. So you can always come back to it, watch it all over again, all right? So I don't want to miss this part, okay? So let me hear, what have you heard so far? Thank you, Irene, thank you, Evie, for joining. Thank you, Olanike. Thank you, Emmy. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Auntie MG. Thank you, Auntie Joke. Thank you, Samira. Let me hear. All right, let me hear what you've heard so far. Fantastic. All right. So I'm so happy to be back doing these YouTube sessions. It's been a while that I kind of disconnected from this. I know that by the time school resumes, there's going to be a lot of things for me to do, but I want to see how I can build this into my routine to say once every week, I kind of come out here on Thursday evenings, 8 p.m. to 8:45, 9 o'clock, and just talk about something with respect to raising girls, with respect to body safety, with respect to, equipping your girls and all of that. So thank you so much for joining tonight, and do well to make sure that you're, just keeping appointments with us, whether you see a post or not, just expect that we're going to be here on Thursday. The more we see people, the more we're encouraged to keep coming out, all right? So let me see what you've heard so far. Auntie Joke said, sex education is a training given to the child to help prevent sex abuse. That's my mama. Thank you so much. You heard it perfectly. Sex education is the education given to help prevent sexual abuse. That's the first one, yeah? Who can tell me the second one? The second reason we give sex education makes a lot of sense. What's the second reason we give sex education? Help me, help me, help me. What's the second reason we give sex education, all right? Let me get this live link and see how I can share it in the meantime. All right. Remember to share, please. I want to share as well. I want to practice what I preach. Here is the live session link while I'm waiting for comments. I'm waiting for comments. All right, let me see whether I'm having any comments. Let me look this way. All right, so I see Samira says there are 3 reasons for sex educating, which are to prevent abuse, to help them answer in discussions. All right, I see, hey, Engineer Israel, it's such an honor to have you here. Welcome all the way from Port Harcourt. I'm honored. Like I said, I wanted to see more daddies here because many times daddies are literally afraid of this conversation. And tonight I just want to break it down a little bit. All right, here's the live link. All right, in case people are not able to find the link, here's a direct link on Fantastic. Okay. Thank you so much for joining tonight. I'm grateful to have your company here. So where am I? So yeah, let me see more comments coming in, more comments. Let me see. Fantastic. All right. I see more comments. Okay, I've read that already. Fantastic. So let me hear. I said 3 things about our goal for providing sex education. I'd like to see how many people can completely recall. Let's see. I said 3 things. I've seen one mama recall 2. One mama recalled 1 recalled 2. I'm waiting for the third one. Sex education is not intercourse education. Thank you so much. I like the way you captured that. Yes, it is not intercourse education, not even in the least bit. All right. So I'm going to move ahead. And the third reason I shared earlier, I've been waiting for someone to share it, is that we provide sex education to help our children with decision making. As they get older, they find themselves in situations where they're curious, they're interested in finding out how certain things work. You just want them to be reminded and guided, to understand what kind of, society is out there and what the possible consequences of their actions would be. You get the idea? So yes, I think we're good there. So I'm going back now. Let me use my phone once again to track comments. Fantastic. Thank you so much for the honor of being here. I see the people joining in tonight. So let me go to what are the 4 key principles around providing sex education that all parents you need to know. What are the 4 key principles? What are the, yes, Amira got it. Ibuari is joining in from Port Harcourt. What are the 4 key principles? So number 1 is that sex education must pass on relevant knowledge. Principle number 1, sex education must pass on relevant knowledge. All right, please someone should type sex education must pass on relevant knowledge. And I'm going to explain what that means in a moment. What does relevant knowledge mean? All right. Another word that we usually use when we want to talk about relevant knowledge is the word age appropriate. All right, is the word age appropriate. All right. So the number 1 principle is that knowledge, sex education must pass on relevant knowledge. Remember, we said 3 things. Sex education is to prevent sexual abuse, is to help a child have conversation, and then the third one is decision making. So having said that, the first principle is that it has to be relevant. And so what do I mean by relevant? When I was starting the session tonight, I talked about where a parent told me that they had a 9-year-old and they've been providing sex education. And when I asked her, I said, "Ma'am, so give me an idea of what you're having, what kind of conversations you're having with a 9-year-old. What she told me was that she has told them if anyone touches her private part, She should report. And I'm standing there and I'm looking at her because that is important information, but it's not relevant to a 9 to 11-year-old. A 9 to 11-year-old is supposed to have known that. And so it's now time to talk about new things. So what does abuse look like for a 9 to 11-year-old? They started going through puberty. Somebody touches them and they enjoy it. Somebody they like in school, that could be another child, touches them and they enjoy it. Do you honestly think that they're going to report? So relevant knowledge looks like body honor at 9 to 11-year-olds. No matter how you like someone, don't let them touch you like that. Don't let anybody touch your private part. Because now it's no longer only adults who can abuse, it's now crushes. They're now having crushes. So it is not relevant knowledge if it does not address where the child is. So that's what we also mean by age appropriate. Age appropriate means it's not too low for the age, it's not too high for the age, it's just fit. And because it's just fit, it's relevant. So sex education principle number 1 is you must pass on relevant knowledge. Relevant knowledge, relevant knowledge. It's like telling a 15 to 17-year-old, if somebody touches your private part, report. At 15, she may want to be touched. So you have to present the information in a way that is relevant for her age. So principle number 1 is that the sex education knowledge must be relevant to the child. Another way of thinking about relevance is the child should be able to use it. The child must find themselves in situations where they can use it. Let me explain. So for example, you have a 3 to 5-year-old, all right? Nobody's writing her notes to say they love her in class, but you now told her a boy shouldn't dishonor you. If they write you notes, bring it home to me. The child will not find herself in a situation where another boy is writing her notes. They are 3 to 5. They are not yet there. Whereas you have another child in 9 to 11 that a boy will be able to write notes to. So look at relevance from my child is likely to find herself in ABC kind of situation, and I'm teaching them how to avoid that situation. We use that and look at preventing sexual abuse. What kind of situations will my daughter be exposed to that can lead to sexual abuse? I give her knowledge for that. You get the idea? What kind of situations will my daughter be exposed to where somebody brings up a conversation? So for example, at 9 to 11, what kind of conversations do you think her classmates will be having? So you equip her for it. What kind of situations will she be in that she needs to make a decision? She has a crush on someone. So give her relevant knowledge, what to do with it. That's what makes it adequate. So sex education must pass on relevant knowledge. If it is age appropriate, then it is relevant. Many parents think about age appropriate from not too high, don't spoil my child. No, age appropriate means 1, the child can understand what you're saying. 2, the child can relate to it. 3, the child can use it. The child can understand, the child can relate, the child can use it. That's relevant knowledge. Pillar number 2, sex education must come with skill building. What do I mean by skill building? Remember, we're trying to prevent abuse, be able to have conversation, be able to make decisions. So you need to give a skill to back it. So for instance, I tell my daughter that if you have a crush on someone, don't write him a note. Don't tell him. Makes sense. So what should she do instead of writing him a note? That's skill building. What should she do in order to be able to uphold what you're saying? So for instance, when we're growing up, our parents used to say, any man that says, so it was just out there, they used to say, if a man sleeps with you, he will dump you. How about you teach her how to hold herself so that she doesn't give in? What to avoid so that she doesn't give in? That's skill building. That's what makes it empowering. So you tell your child not to watch porn. So you build the skill. If something pops up, close it bring the device to me. If you find yourself drawn to watching it, close it and tell me when I come back from home. I come back from work. Note the website you were on when it popped. And when we come back, we'll see how we can block it. Or you teach the child how to go to the setting and block that website. What skill goes with it? You tell your 3 to 5-year-old nobody should touch your private part, but they can't wash their vagina by themselves. That means somebody must watch. So you teach them how to count how many times the person wipes them. So don't let them wipe you more than 3 times. When it gets to the 4th time, tell auntie to stop. That's a skill. There's a distance between head and action. So when you give skills, you give what the knowledge they have muscles to take, to take actions. So you teach something that is relevant, then you give a skill that makes it possible for the child to do it. You provide skill. So count how many times they wiped you. And then you start teaching the child how to clean themselves by themselves so that there's no need for anybody to wipe them. All right? So that there is absolutely no need for anybody to wipe them. There's no need for anybody to clean them. So talk alone is not enough. In fact, some parents say, if anybody touches your private part, don't tell me. So it happened when they were in school. So we give a skill. If it happens in school, tell this person, safe circle. If it happens in church, tell this person. The moment the person touches you, tell them you want to go and ease yourself. Skill. Go out, ease yourself, and sit outside for air. Skill. You're with an auntie, and uncle tells the auntie to leave the room, and you're left alone. Do this. Ask your uncle if you can go and get water, if you can pick something, and leave that space. Skill. You get the idea? So let me hear if you're learning something. Let me see what you're learning. Let me see what you're learning. So the first pillar is that, the first principle is that sex education, you pass knowledge, and that knowledge has to be relevant to the child. And what is relevant to one child is not relevant to another, especially when we look at it from the perspective of their ages. That's why at the boot camp, we break the girls into different age groups. If you attend our 15 to 17-year-old class, sometimes it looks like a totally different boot camp entirely. The reason it is like that is because we're trying to make the conversations relevant to the girls at their different ages, all right? So I see Alero, these are my good students, to help our girls make decisions concerning sex, not from anyone or pressured by anyone. Fantastic. I'm saying this, fantastic. I see Esther Nongo saying sex education must pass on relevant knowledge. Fantastic, all right? So this is great. So let me go to the third pillar. The third pillar, I've talked about knowledge, I've talked about skills. I want to talk about the third pillar, which is scenarios. Let me not use scenarios, situations. Many of us talk in abstract sense. We tell our daughters, don't let any boy touch you. Don't write a note to any boy. For example, how? So see how many stories I've told you today, presenting you different situations. Your daughters need that too. So on a message, for instance, you have a crush on a boy, you like him, he knows you like him, and he likes you back. Both of you like yourself back. The truth is that even if you like, both of you like yourself, it still does not mean that that's a go ahead. Our principle is to honor God. Now, when you start bringing real scenarios that your daughter will find herself in, it gives her opportunity to know where to apply that knowledge you give her and the skill you give her. Because if she leaves and she says that my mommy says, no matter how I like a boy, I shouldn't take action, she can assume that, oh, maybe mommy means that in case the boy doesn't like me. So what if the boy likes me back? And one of the things that makes the children come back is the different scenarios you can paint for them. Before you know it, they to start volunteering. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if that happens? You now guide them. Now, many parents think that they're providing sex education, but they are not. When you sit down to talk to a child and you're the main person talking, that is not sex education, because remember, sex education has to be relevant. If it's relevant to your child, there will be questions. If a child is even hearing you, she'll bring up her own topic. She'll ask you, but what if this happens? What if that happens? If your child starts to ask you questions, the more you answer their question, the better they are equipped, whether it's to prevent sexual abuse, whether it's to respond to the conversations in their classes, whether it's to guide them in better decision making. So there has to be hearing from them. So in that third principle, that third leg, where you're bringing scenarios, one of the key drivers is that the child is contributing sample scenarios. Mommy, what about the boy that says he likes you, but he likes another person in your class? And you're like, I know that can hurt. I know that can hurt. I know everybody wants to be liked back. But the truth of the matter is that both of you, I remember one time when my daughter came and told me about a boy she had a crush on, that used to have a crush on her, but he wasn't loyal. He had a crush here, he had a crush there. And he was in a school that one of her friends was in. And the friend came and told her that, this boy that is crushing on you, see who is crushing on his school. So when she came to talk to me about it, I called her, I said, sweetheart, now you want to make me think that you're a hypocrite. You have a crush on him, but in school you have a crush on this one. Here you have a crush on this one. I said, so what is happening to all of you is that you're going through puberty. And when you're going through puberty, there's a way your brain makes emotional connections. And that's what is happening. So for now, just focus on learning more about yourself. You know, learn more about yourself, learn more about who you are, learn more about what interests you. Like one of the things I tell my daughters is that your crushes tell a story about who you are. Your crushes tell a story about what your priority is. Your crushes tell a story about what your values are. And so every time you look at a crush that you're drawn to, it's not a time to take action. It's a time to ask yourself, why am I interested in this person? If you study and discover that, oh, you like people because of how they dress and you don't quite pay attention to their behavior or their values, it's a feedback for you. It helps you learn about yourself. And it helps you through the conversation I'm having with them, for example. It helps them learn what is most important. And so when they find out that every interest they have is not focusing on the values, it helps them build their logic down to say, look, no matter how you feel about someone, these are some of the things that are important. These are some of the things that matter. I remember this one time I came and put on my WhatsApp story when I told my daughters that as you're growing, as you start having crushes, be careful about the boys that make you laugh. That the boys who treat you with respect will always be more valuable than the boys who make you laugh. And one of my daughters asked me, Mommy, what's the difference? I said, the difference is that when you like someone, you laugh about everything, even their stupid jokes. Pardon my language. You laugh about things that they say that are not necessarily funny because you're drawn to them. I say, but if you focus on how they treat you, how they speak to you, how they differ, how they, you know, how they say, hi, how you doing? You know, they talk to you with respect. They don't think that you're one of those girls. They don't threaten you, come and meet me here, which many of the boys around them will be doing, especially boys that are well-raised, handle their emotions well. And so how the girls know they like them is the way they treat the girl with honor. So that's how the girl picks the frequency. Like, I think there must be a thing because it's the way he speaks to me. And so I started to teach my daughters that watch out for men that honor you. So she may not find it in this phase, but I've already put it high up there on her priority list. I'm helping her see value. So then we move on and say, well, if he treats you with honor, but he treats other girls like crap, it's a matter of time. When the crush is over, he's going to treat you like crap. So we use real scenarios to drive in principles. We use real scenarios to do real equipping. So tonight's video is not a video to watch just once. So you need to come over and over and over and over again and keep watching. So having said that, I want to say sex education is appropriate to this. So sex education is appropriate for all ages, but sex as intercourse is appropriate for age 9 and up. But there is a how to say it. You have to say it in a way that is not triggering of sexual interest. There's a way to say that it can trigger interest depending on, for instance, when I'm talking about sex as intercourse to kids, I would never talk about orgasm. I'll never talk about pleasure. I talk about it from the biology side of things. This is how God designed for children to be conceived. In fact, I talk about VVF as an option of how conception happens. Then I talk about this option. In fact, so every time I put intercourse side by side with VVF, it does a good job of deflecting a lot of attention into the, the pleasurable perspective, but it makes kids focus on, oh, there's an engineering going on here. You get the idea. And as they get older, They can get to the point where they say, Mom, does it hurt? You say, no, it doesn't really hurt. It was also something God designed for companionship. There's an age they get to, you now tell them that God really wanted this to really happen between just a man and woman who are married, because the Bible says that he who lies with a prostitute is one with her, so that there's a soul exchange. I mean, Pastor Kingsley Okonkwo wrote something last week on it. I saw a video he made last week where he said that in the Bible, there's no wedding. There's no court marriage, traditional marriage and all, because the Bible recognizes sex as marriage. So having sex before, the honor of the institution means that you're just one with several people, and then they can learn about soul ties and baggage and the shame and the complexities of abortions. So you can see that the thing moves on. We start from 9 to 11 basic, but by the time they're reaching 15 to 17, we're talking about it in mature terms. And these are conversations you need to have before your babies leave home, before some of us are preparing them to go abroad for school. And we've not sat down and had thorough conversations with them. They're growing up with ideas they pick from the media, from friends, from everywhere. And you think they will travel and come back sane? It's possible for them to come back sane. I mean, with prayers, a lot is possible, but it can come with a lot of struggle. It's easier if you teach and then pray. That's a more rock solid strategy. Yes. So if you are, the truth is that from age 3 and up, there's sex education. From age 3 to the end, there's sex education. But when you start to talk about intercourse and complex conversations, it's from age 9 and up. And it's still staggered because it still needs to be age appropriate. For example, you can't be talking soul tie to 9 to 11-year-old. Kilo day is not relevant to them. But 15 to 17, they're seeing movies where at prom night people had sex. So it's relevant to 15 to 17 to know about soul ties, because in the conversation in their environment, they are already thinking that sex is a norm. Remember, sex education has to be relevant. So that's the core. It has to be relevant. And we really took the time this last weekend through our sex education conversation starter class. For 2 days, it was crazy. We looked at different phases children are in. So you can look at a 9-year-old and there are certain questions you answer and you know what is relevant to a 9-year-old right now. So you don't wing it. You know precisely what is relevant to a 9-year-old. So that was what the class was about. How do I know exactly what to say to this child of this age? And the classes, the sessions were explosive. And after the class, parents have a 5-day challenge where they're picking each of their children and getting to articulate, what do I need to teach this one now? And they're remembering, remember this point, and they're putting it to, they're putting it practically. My 9 to 11-year-old, what should I be talking about? For example, talking about periods is a given. To talk about, in fact, on your daughter's 9th birthday, that's what I did. When my daughter was turning 9, I took her, I like to do different things for my girls on their birthdays. It doesn't always have to be cake. There's always, most of the time there's cake, but I like experiences. So when my first daughter was turning 9, I took her to ShopRite. I think I did that with her younger sister too. I took her to ShopRite and she was thinking, Mommy said we buy cake and drinks and blah, 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 blah. When we were done, we ended up at the pad section of ShopRite. And I told her, look at all of this, pick the one you like. Obviously, she'll be picking by color, by this. And when we packed, I went and looked for a place, both of us sat down, and I started talking to her that your body's going to start experiencing some kinds of changes. See the ones that have already started, see where it's going to, this is where the journey is. And when I was on, she was asking, how will I know that the period is going to come again? How do I count it? I'm like, how do I know? I told her, like, I was telling her the 28-day cycle and how you count it from the first day you begin and how you wash. And I mean, it was a beautiful conversation. It's relevant. If you're having that conversation with the 12-year-old, I'm worried for you because they've already heard it somewhere. And somebody could have told them all kinds of junk about it. And somebody said, well, should I wait till my daughter sees her period? No, you want your daughter to see her period like a pro. When it comes to like, so since my children turn 9, they have a pack of pad in their drawers. My 12-year-old, my first daughter is turning 12 on Monday. I'm going somewhere with her again, and we're going to start talking about new layers. Already, when they turn that new age, I give them the new doodle book, my books. And so they start to read and we start to talk because the conversation is getting deeper. So you can't let me tell you, you know, when the government said they didn't want schools to do sex education mainstream and parents were upset, and I backed the government, I said, yes, it's because sex education is not academic. Whoever gives it has control. Whoever gives it has power. Whoever gives it controls the narrative. So part of even doing these YouTube videos is at any point the parent Googles, how do I give sex education to my daughter? She can come and watch this video and see the scope and take responsibility. And church circles and association circles can meet and in their meeting play these videos for people to watch. Play these videos for parents to watch, and if they want to call me in to do Q&A sessions with them, perfect. But sex education is so empowering that until you provide sex education, you've not really prepared your child for adulthood. You can send them to school, get them on a good adults program, win scholarships, go everywhere until you fix how their body is evolving and the things that can happen to their body. You know, a child can fail academically and be motivated the next year to do better. But a child that is sexually abused, a child that has made a poor decision that led to a sexual trauma can struggle with it for the rest of their lives. So I know that one looks institutionalized and the other one looks, you know, based on volition, but it's not exactly true. It's not really based on volition. So each and every one of us listening today needs to step up. So I've shared 3 principles. I'm going to say the final one. The final one is sex education must, one of the things that makes it work is to build conviction. What does conviction mean? You have to imagine that one day your child is not going to be under your roof. Your child is not going to be under your supervision. Will they be able to choose the values you've been teaching on their own? Will they be able to do that? First and foremost, let's think about your typical 3 to 5-year-olds. You're at work, they're in school. Maybe the housekeeper picks them from school and brings them home, and you come home later in the day. A good part of their day, you're not in it. So you want them to be able to make these decisions on their own. That's why we say give knowledge. We say give skills. We say give examples. Give scenarios that they can apply it. So for example, if your daughter attended the Body Smart Girl Bootcamp, you'd have seen where we started talking about playground safety. It's because all this talk, don't let someone touch you, don't do this. So, oh yeah, when you're in the playground, these are the rules. When you're in the bedroom, these are the rules. When you go to grandma, these are the rules. When an auntie comes with the phone, these are the safety rules. We're giving them scenarios where when they step into those scenarios, they can make a decision. But as they get older, it's not a thing of conviction, because you can provide knowledge, you can provide skill, you can provide the example, and your child is not convinced. I'm not going to go too deeply into it, but I'll share 2 things. The first thing is, children know when a parent has conviction, and conviction begets conviction. Your children know when your conviction is shallow, you don't have enough confidence, you don't have enough information. So your talk is empty. So you as a parent need to be equipped and confident where when you're talking to your 9 to 11-year-old, you talk, and when you have that conviction and confidence, you speak on relevant topics in a way that your child knows that you know what you're talking about. Your child knows it's not a reported speech. When they share WhatsApp broadcasts and you read it, then you gather your children. They know that there's not enough weight in it. For example, when Malian culture was trending, there was something wrong with calling your child and saying, are you a Malian? Which child will answer what a Malian is? Did you do a research on what the philosophy of Malians are? Because if you want to talk to your daughters about Malians or sons, you would have started with, do you have any clique that you're part of in school? What brings you guys together? What do you guys have in common? How do you guys hang out? Why do you think the group is special? And they start to talk. And then you can move from there and say, if they asked you to do something weird just because you're in the group, would you do it? You can't just say like weird, like how? Like they say you guys shouldn't attend class tomorrow. Would you do it? You hear your child say, your child could either say, no, my group won't do that, or laugh about it. And if they laugh, you can say, why are you laughing? Say, well, even if they say that, it's not like I'll follow. Your child has given you the perspective that they have a group of friends who can actually suggest that. And so you can start asking, what other things is your child looking for in that group? Is it a brotherhood thing? Is it friendship? Is it loyalty? Is that the tough girls group and your child is trying to hide? Those kinds of conversation helps your child know you're aware and you're trying to take them on a journey. Now, when you take a child on a journey where there's real dialogue, where it's no longer superficial, it's intimate, where you're trying to find out. So maybe nudes, say, sweetheart, if you had a crush on someone you really liked and he asked you to share your nudes with him, what will make you share it? What will make you not share it? Not will you share it, because your children know that they need to protect your ego. Will you share it? Will you not share it? No. What will make you share it? What will make you not share it? Because at this instance, you're trying to build it, you're trying to take this thing inwards so that your daughter does what she does because she wants to do it, not necessarily because you asked her to do it. There's an age that mommy asked me to do works. It's 9 to 11 and midway 12 to 14. But by the time they're in 12 to 14, one of their biggest peer pressure points is, must you tell your mom? Must you do what your mom says? Be a big girl. So it means that you want to build deep roots and you want to build relationship and you want to build friendship, because this last pillar of sex education or conviction stands on relationship. Without relationship, you can't drive it in. Without relationship, you can never drive it in. So I've come to the end of my session today. Let me see if there's something I promised to teach that I didn't talk about. Yes, I want to be sure. You know, when we make this post, we are pumped up when we are doing the broadcast. So I want to be sure I'm checking my own checklist for today. So I said we'll teach 3 things tonight: what sex education is, the 4 principles that make effective sex education, how to answer sex education questions for your girls. I won't teach that last point tonight. I'll do it another Thursday. So come another Thursday. How to answer sex questions, all right? So I've come to the end of tonight's session. The first thing I said today was that sex education is any training that you provide to help your daughter or son prevent sexual abuse, to help them have, be able to respond to the conversations happening in their circle. They're knowledgeable enough to respond. And also any training you give to help your child make the right decisions. I then move on very quickly to share 4 principles that make effective sex education. Number 1 is that the knowledge that you share must be relevant for your child's age, relevant, usable, relatable to the child. Number 2, when you share knowledge, share the skills that will go with it. If you want your child to resist peer pressure, you need to have, practice. How do you resist peer pressure? When your friend says this, remind yourself, affirm this, step out of the space. Like you're literally helping your child understand the skills to overcoming peer pressure. So peer pressure, you identify, is my friend asking me to do something that could dishonor my body, dishonor God, dishonor my parents. If that person is doing that, step 3, I reduce how much time I give the person. Because everything I hear, I'm likely going to meditate on it and take action. So we're equipped with skills. Number 3, we bring in storytelling, where we bring typical scenarios that the child will find themselves in and what they ought to do. Then number 4, building convictions. Whatever you're teaching, don't stop at I told you. Get to build convictions. And convictions come out of relationship. Convictions come out of deep conversations with your daughters. Conviction and your sons. Convictions come out of relationship. So if you are an instruction-oriented parent, you're not likely to build conviction. All right? And so if you're listening, like, what? I want to learn this more at a deeper level. I have 2 resources I can talk to you very quickly about. The first resource is called the Sex Education Conversation Planner. We have it, is on our link in bio on YouTube, on Instagram. We're going to post it in the description of this video in a moment. That Sex Conversation Planner is 1,000 naira only, selling on Seller. You can order it today and see age by age topics. We did 3 to 5 year old. This is their age. This is the topics to cover for 1 year. 6 to 8 topics to cover. It does not contain notes. It's topics to cover. So now I've come to talk to you. I've told you about, how to do knowledge, skills, experiences and conviction. Use that framework. Take the topic, open it. But if you feel like, look, Irene, I want to know what you guys learned for 2 good days, 6 hours last weekend, which was explosive. Different perspective to this thing. You can watch the replay. What you need to do is send us a chat via WhatsApp. Our number on WhatsApp is 08100944320. Let me just type it. I'm going to put +234 now. +2348100944320. Send us a WhatsApp message right away. Send us a WhatsApp message. Send us a WhatsApp message. I've pinned it to this video. Send us a WhatsApp message, whether it's for the sex conversation planner and whether it's for the sex education conversation starter class. You want to see the replay. Everything that Irene puts her name on has to provide real, relevant, adequate information. Sometimes I feel that I even teach too much on my YouTube channel, but nothing is changing because I want everyone to be able to access at the most basic entry enough valuable information. So I'm looking at the chat now to see whether there are any questions. All right, let me see. Good evening, everyone. And relevant. Thank you, Modupe Onaivi. You just sounded like a teacher. A good one, putting VVF and intercourse side by side. Now, Kem has even brought a new perspective. Even, you know, when I start talking to girls that your body is changing and conception and all of that, by the time they move into 12 to 14, I started to tell them, maybe by this time you're seeing your period already, you may start to feel like you have the body of an adult, but you don't, because one of the things, signs to show that you don't have the body of an adult is that if you got pregnant, you're most likely to have obstructed labor. And the reason you have obstructed labor is because the body is not developed enough for that whole 9 yards. So just because your body is changing to the body of an adult, it doesn't mean you're there yet. And even when you start to see your period and you feel like I'm a mature girl, your body may not be ready for it. Then when they get to 15 to 17, I tell them, even if your body is ready for it, maybe by the time you're 18, 19, 20, you feel like, oh, my body is ready for it. The real person that determines if you're ready for this business is you and the Holy Spirit. In the journey of your assignment is childbearing on it right now. If it is not, then there's no reason to explore sex. Or you, I will come back, I will answer the questions. I want to make sure that when my girls get back, so sorry about that, but we're wrapping up now. I want to thank everyone for coming out. Please remember to share this video. Remember to share this video. Remember, you see how you people used to share NSPPD. NSPPD is not my mate, too. I'm not even in that league at all, but I'm just appealing to you the same way you share, you know, things you know that will help other people. Share this video with those people. Thing is, the more girls that show up in your daughter's class, knowledgeable and equipped, the safer the classroom is for your child. I want to thank every one of you. You know, I love you, right? That's why I do this. So let's book another appointment next week, Thursday. Next week, Thursday, I wanted to talk to us about preparing our daughters for our first period, but I'm going to make sure I finish this series. So next Thursday, I'm going to talk about how to answer sex questions. So come in early because I'm going to pick some of the questions in the comments and I'm going to walk you through how to answer. There's a way to answer a sex education question, again, in an age-appropriate manner. So come in with your questions. Tell all your friends at work that next week Irene wants to answer sex questions that kids ask. I'll just share a little bit of the principle, how we answer the questions so that it is relevant and age-appropriate, and then I'll start answering the questions practically. So come in early is 8 to 9 p.m. on the dot. So someone says share the replay. You're already, if you're watching on YouTube, that's the video you're watching. So that's the link. So share this video you're watching on. And I'm the one on Zoom. You are watching it on YouTube. So share the link with as many friends as possible. So I'm going to be logging out now. I promised you today was going to be 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. and I stuck with it. I'm going to be doing it like this so that if it is 45 to 1 minute, it's concise and you get a lot of value. Remember, you can ask us questions, leave comments on this YouTube thread, and I'll be happy to answer them. So once again, I discovered I started this session without introducing myself. So my name is Irene Banwell. I'm a girls coach. God has commissioned me to work and equip girl parents and the girls themselves with body safety education that is based on biblical truth and principles. So I teach girls about body safety and then biblical truths around sex education. So if you're looking for biblical truth passed down in a way that is, a child can assimilate, how we're teaching purity in a way that is empowering, helping the girl see herself in the bigger picture of God's purpose, all right? I'm your plug. I don't talk plenty English, but essentially I teach Bible-based sex education. My handle on Instagram is raisinggirls.ng. Go in there, follow your girl. And this is our YouTube channel at Raising Girls. On YouTube, there is no .ng. So it's just at Raising Girls. So if you're following us on YouTube, do us a quick favor. Share the links to the channel where let many parents come in and subscribe. So I'm signing out now because at 10 p.m. I'm leaving this place. God bless you. Go and have a wonderful evening. Love you all. Bye-bye. Someone asked, is there a package that contains, let me see, is there a package that contains sex ed? Yes, we have books. We have the Body Smart Girl bundle that has age by age sex education, like books we've written per age. So there's a Body Smart Girl bundle. So look at the pinned post, check our number and send us a chat and we'll respond to you in the morning. So we have the Body Smart Girl bundle that has a book for parents and then age by age books for girls. There's 3 to 5 book and flashcard, 6 to 8 book and flashcard, 9 to 11 book and flashcard, 12 to 14 book and flashcard, 15 to 17 books and flashcard. God bless you guys. I don't want it to go past 9 p.m. Sorry. Bye-bye.